How is everyone today? So excited to have you all here. My name is Angie Redmond, and I co-facilitate this group with Melanie. And I want to briefly, before Melanie introduces our speaker, in case you did not see the announcement we made on the Facebook page a few weeks ago, we are introducing a new idea, which is a coffee sponsor for our meetings. And what we're looking at for a coffee sponsor is to bring the coffee to the meetings. But prior to the presentation, we want to give you an opportunity to share information about your organization or whomever you're representing. We'll give you about 5 minutes before the speaker gets started to have that opportunity. So if you have an interest in being a coffee sponsor for any of the upcoming meetings, reach out to myself, reach out to Melanie, and we'll be happy to talk to you about that. So with that in mind, I'll turn it over to Melanie to introduce today's speaker.
Okay, I'm not sick. I don't have COVID, but I am being protective, so I'll elbow you. All right, so we are excited today because I found this speaker through LinkedIn, through another connection, and I think it was through a book that I have currently co-authored, and it was one of the authors that said, we need to connect you guys in Indianapolis. So at the end of this presentation, I just want to say this real quick, don't leave, because we want to get a group picture like we always do. We have been doing a financial series for the last several meetings. And if you remember Bree Eichert, she talked about personal finances. And so how you invest in compounding and how you can really start to create wealth at whatever stage you are in your life. So today we're going to listen to a different story. Melinda Chapman is going to take us through as a real estate investor. And I love her story. I'm going to let her really talk about her background because I think it's amazing. She has my heart for just serving people in a bigger way. And so if you follow Dave Ramsey, if you have thought about, what your mortgage is actually doing to compound interest and how you're making decisions with your money as you get older, right? And so what do you want to pay off first? And what are the things that you really need to be paying attention to? That's what Melinda's going to talk to us in a bigger way today. So without further ado, Melinda, I would like for you to just be welcome to the group, and we are just honored to have you here. Sponsored by Joe Ake Studios here that is also recording this for you. And
awesome.
Just thanks for being our speaker today.
Well, thank you. We feel so privileged to be here. I have a couple of my agents with me here today, Susan Fisher and Marilyn White. And it's always a privilege to get to speak about this. I am a realtor by trade. That's what I do first and foremost. But my husband and I were introduced to this amazing financial program almost 2 years ago, and it absolutely changed my life. And it changed the way I do my real estate business. It changed the way I interact with people, and I can't keep my mouth shut about it. Have you ever had something that just happens that you just have to tell everyone? And that's what this is. So 2 years ago, I had a friend, a realtor in California actually, who called me up and she said, you have to check out this amazing financial program. Well, my husband and I had been Dave Ramsey followers forever. We taught financial peace in our church. We were on Facebook pages of Dave Ramsey and giving people advice on the pages, and we loved helping people with their finances and giving advice, so that had always been part of our wheelhouse. And I said to her, well, we'll take a look at it, but we don't have any debt other than our mortgage. And being a realtor, I thought I knew everything there was to know about our mortgages. And so she said, well, you need to take a look at it. I'm going to send you some videos. So she sent us some videos. We took a look at it. My husband was absolutely blown away. He's more the numbers guy than what I am. And he was just like, Melinda, we really need to look into this. And I'm like, honey, how could anything improve our situation? We only have 11 years left on our mortgage. We're paying way more principal than interest right now. What could possibly improve our situation? This is my conditioned way of thinking because, again, I thought I knew everything there was to know about mortgages. And so we offer a complimentary analysis for everyone. And so my husband, in his logical way of thinking, he's like, babe, it's free. Let's let them run our numbers and let's just see what happens. So we did. And it took our 11-year mortgage down to a 2.6-year payoff, ladies. Saved us $18,000 in scheduled interest. And after I picked my jaw up off the floor, after hearing our results, I looked at my husband and I said, honey, I'm not going to be able to keep my mouth shut about this. Anyone and everyone with debt needs to know about this. And that was almost 2 years ago, and that has been my mission, my mantra. Anyone that'll listen to me, I tell them about it, because I consider what we have to be one of those things that we call a disruptive technology. Occasionally in life, something comes along that is truly life-changing. It changes the way we just do life. And you think about the automobile and how it changed the way we do life. You think about the telephone and how it changed the way we do life. This technology is unlike anything you have ever seen. And I don't say that lightly. I promise you, you've never seen anything like this, because no one has what we have and no one can do what we do. Even though we've been around 18 years, we basically just tell people word of mouth. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. So I don't want to derail, but that's kind of my story. And as a realtor, it just goes hand in glove with what I do. I help people get into these new homes. I help them get into these new mortgages. It makes perfect sense that I turn it around and I show them, let me show you how you can get out from underneath your mortgage or any other debt. You don't even have to have a mortgage, by the way. It works with any debt, but it just goes hand in glove with what I do. And I'm going to apologize. I don't have my clicker. I'm going to be tied down to this mouse. I'm used to liking to walk around and move around, and I'm going to be kind of tied down to my mouse. But when you can't change the direction of the wind, and we know we can't control the wind, right, ladies? We have no control over the wind, but we can adjust our sails, right? And I think that's just a really cool concept to think about. And at any given moment, the decisions that we make in our life can truly change the course of our life forever. And I made that decision almost 2 years ago when I was introduced to this program. I said, this is something that's going to change people's life. It changed our life. I mean, I turned 60 back in November, and we were introduced to this a couple of years ago. I mean, 11 years is a pretty nice light at the end of the tunnel. But to go down to 2.6, that light got really big for us. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I immediately caught the vision. I said, if it can do this for us, imagine what it can do for people that have much larger mortgages and have debt on top of that. So that's why I've become so passionate about it. So I'd like to ask each of you, as you watch and listen this presentation today, to kind of allow yourselves to think about things a little differently than you have before. And I say that because I promise you, we all have been conditioned to think about things in a certain way, and we know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. And that's where I was 2 years ago. I thought I knew everything there was to know about mortgages and money and how it works. So it's going to come down to each of us really allowing ourselves to think a little differently about money. We're going to have to think about things that we've never really thought about before. What do we know about money? What don't we know about money? What do we need to know? And then how are we going to put this newfound knowledge into action, not only for ourselves, but for others as well? So let's kind of talk about the ugly first. I mean, we kind of know where we are in today's society, right? Prices, inflation, it's crazy. Everything's crazy out there. Inflation has got us, our dollar just doesn't have the spending power that it once had. We go to the grocery store, the gas pump. We just can't make our dollar go as far as it used to. Housing market. I know about that all too well. Buyers are in sticker shock still over interest rates rising. But hey, guys, interest rates are back to normal. What we saw 2 years ago with those 2 and 3% interest rates, that was an anomaly that we will probably never, ever see again. So we just have to like suck it up, Buttercup, and just realize that it is what it is. I can remember interest rates being 18, 19% 20 years ago, and people were still buying and selling their homes. Inflation has reached an all-time high. Rents, it used to be people would rent when they couldn't afford to buy. But I don't know if you're aware of this, but now it's almost crazy to even try to rent. The hoops and the loops that they make you go through to try to rent. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm just going to skip through this because that's enough of the bad news. Here's another daunting, a few other daunting statistics. Our education system. If you think about it, I don't really remember being taught much about money when I was going to school. I don't really remember being taught much about money. We're not taught about how money works, but here's the thing. Student loan debt, $1.76 trillion. 40 million Americans have student loan debt. And here's an even more daunting statistic. 37% of those are over the age of 65. Those are the people that should be retired, and they have student loan debt. So per student, about $39,000 each. Average American credit cards, $6,339. And then the mortgage debt in America, we're at $17.8 trillion in mortgage debt. So let's talk about some good news. Let's talk about the heroes of the day. These are the founders of our company. Our company's name is United Financial Freedom. And our name really does say it all. We truly are united to help set families financially free. These are our founders, Skylar Whitman and John Wishenko. They actually were childhood best friends. They grew up living next door to each other in central Utah, always aspired to go into business together, and they actually did that. In the late 1990s, they opened up a mortgage company in central Utah, became one of central Utah's fastest growing, most successful mortgage companies. But it didn't take them long before they realized, hey, we've got a real debt epidemic in America. And how did they discover that? Because their very own clients were coming back to them every 2 to 3 years wanting to refinance their mortgages. And not going from a 30-year to a 15, but they were wanting to refinance to pay off their consumer debt and transfer that debt onto the mortgage. So they weren't really improving their position at all. They weren't really getting out of debt. They were just transferring that debt from one place to another. And they knew there had to be a better way. And they have such a heart for people. I mean, they truly do. They have a heart for people. So they invested a lot of money. They hired a lot of really smart guys, and they developed what we call today our Money Max account. And back in 2004, they released our version 1, and they did a beta test in the Denver, Colorado area with 400 homeowners. And ironically, 70% of those homeowners were paying off 20% faster than our program even said it would. That was absolutely amazing. Then in 2006, version 3.5, we went nationwide in all 50 states. And then 2008 through 18, and y'all remember what happened in 2008? The big crash, right? Well, prior to 2008, our system required you use an offset account of a home equity line of credit. You had to have a HELOC in order for the system to work. Well, in 2008, when the crash happened, the banks froze all the HELOCs. And so John and Skylar had to go back to the drawing board. They're like, we either have to figure out a way that we can use another kind of offset account, or we're kind of done. So now, today, you can use any offset account. 80% of our clients use a basic checking and savings account. And then in 2021, version 5.7, we came out with zero down financing options, and then in last year in 2022, version 6, and we now have an MMA Pro. We have a wealth building side. Debt is the biggest deterrent to building wealth. Most of us would have the mindset, well, we just need to make more money. Well, it's not necessarily that. It's where's our money going and who's our money working for? If we're paying out our money to creditors every single month, our money's not working for us. It's working for the bank. But if we can keep that money and put it to work for ourselves, it really doesn't matter how much we're making when you get to keep it, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. How many of you have heard of Ernst & Young, one of the top 3 most renowned accounting firms in the entire world? We were nominated by the vice president of Wells Fargo Bank, and we received a very prestigious award from Ernst & Young in the financial services division back in 2008, ironically, the same year the crash happened. And this is no like dog and pony show or a beauty pageant. They do their real intensive due diligence. They take a deep dive into the company's financials and the longevity and the retention, the product viability, the impact that we have on consumers. And the same award has been given to other companies that you recognize: Apple, Starbucks, eBay, Microsoft. And then we've gone on to be featured in many business and financial publications like Broker Banker and True Wealth and Success and other things like that. So like I alluded to earlier, the problem is not how much money we make, rather where's our money going and for whom is our money working. So let's look at it this way. Let's say you had $1,432, which might be, sounds kind of like a mortgage payment, right? Like it might be somebody's mortgage payment. And let's just say that we invested it or put it in a 1% savings account over 30 years. Did you know that at the end of 30 years, you would actually have $602,907 by just putting it in a simple 1% savings account? But that is the power of compound interest. And that is the power of putting your money to work for you instead of giving it away to the bank. Here's the great American financial dilemma. And this really hit me since I'm now in the big 6-0 decade. But out of every 100 people at age 65, 63 are going to be broke. 3 of them are still going to be working. 29, sadly, will have passed away. And 4 will be financially secure. That's some pretty daunting statistics right there, I think. And I can't tell you how many people I come across in my line of work, and it's so heartbreaking, that should be retired or they're near retirement, and they're like, Melinda, we just refinanced our mortgage. You know, we've got 27, 28 years left on our mortgage. You know, we've got a couple of auto loans. We have some credit card debt. There's no light at the end of their tunnel right now. And we give people hope. It's so rewarding. We give people hope. So if I were to ask you ladies a question, what would you say is your biggest expense? Yeah, just shout it out. What would you say? The mortgage, your house? Would everybody agree with that? Okay. I'm going to say let's look a little deeper, because the biggest expense for most people is actually interest. Okay? The interest that we pay on all of the loans that we have. The mortgage interest, the car loan interest, the credit card interest, the personal loan interest, the student loan interest. And here's the thing. We're never going to become wealthy or even financially healthy until we do what most wealthy people do. And what's the number one thing that most wealthy people do? They earn interest. They don't pay interest, they earn interest. And Albert Einstein said it this way, that compound interest is like the eighth wonder of the world. Those who earn it are ones that are always going to or those who understand it are always destined to earn it, and those who don't understand it are doomed to pay it. And if you think about the amount of interest that we pay on our loans, that's just it. We don't think about it. We really, truly don't think about it. And that's what opened my eyes when I got introduced to this company and this program, because we kind of pull the curtain back and we kind of expose what the banking industry does. And guys, I'm telling you, everything is set up to keep them in profit mode and to keep us in debt. Look, he's back there shaking his head. He's like, amen, right? And if you don't know that and understand that, it's time that you do. Because I've gone all my life and I didn't really know that and understand that. But that is the truth. So let's take a look at a few debts here. We've got a couple of credit cards, we've got a mortgage, an auto loan, MasterCard. What would you say is, how would you pay this off? And I know there's a lot of different strategies out there. There's a lot of debt elimination programs out there. You know, again, I was a huge Dave Ramsey fan, and he was all about, you know, the snowball effect and pay down that lowest interest rate card first, and then you just take that balance and then you attack the next one. But there's all different kinds of strategies out there, and we're always trying to figure out what's the best way to do it. We typically are going to think, well, we should probably attack that 21% interest rate credit card right there. But look at that. Interestingly enough, over 11 years and 9 months, you're only paying $3,100 in interest on that 21% credit card. But let's look a little deeper here. Look at the mortgage. So over 30 years, a $300,000 mortgage at 4% interest, you're going to pay an additional $215,607 in interest. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And then look at the student loan debt. It has the lowest interest rate, but it's the second most expensive loan, $21,000. And why is that? Because of the term, because of the time. The mortgage is a 30-year term. The student loan is a 20-year term. And we need to understand not all interest is calculated the same. It's different. Our mortgage interest is calculated differently than our auto loan interest, differently than our student loan interest, differently than the credit card interest. And it's not just about interest rate. And this is probably, ladies, if you hear me say anything today, let this be your takeaway. Because the banks they've done their job of getting us to focus on rate and payment. That's what they want us to focus on, rate and payment. Think about when you go to buy a car, what's the first thing they ask you? Well, what kind of monthly payment are you comfortable with? They never ask us how much do we want to spend on the vehicle, right? We have been conditioned as a society to think about, okay, if the rate is good, and if we can afford that monthly payment, then we're golden. That's really what we've been conditioned to think, and that's exactly what the banks want us to think. But it's not just about the interest rate. It's about the total amount borrowed. It's about the length of the term or the time factor. It's about the monthly payment amount. Is that loan open-end or closed-end? Most people only look at the interest rate and monthly payment amount, and that's what really gets us into trouble. So we're going to talk about the difference between interest rate and interest volume. How many of you have a mortgage? Raise your hand. How many of you owe more than 20 years on your mortgage? Okay, so refinance, like in the last, anybody refinance when the rates got really low? Okay, all right. So we're going to talk about the difference between interest rate and interest volume, because again, the banks want us to focus on interest rate. Interest rate is the APR, but that has nothing to do with the amount of interest we pay within the amortization loan. Little clue here. The word mortgage in Latin, mort means death, gage means pledge. So the word itself means death pledge in Latin. So there's your first clue. Then our mortgages are paid according to an amortization schedule. Then we see the word mort again in that amortization schedule. This amortization schedule is 360 pre-scheduled principal and interest payments. Principal and interest are tied together, always tied together. And the banks have structured them, trust me, to be to their advantage. Prior to 1970, the loans were simple interest. And in 1970, the banks actually petitioned Congress, and they're like, we're just not making enough money. That's pretty much what it boiled down to. So because the banks have the largest building in every city, they know what they're doing. They know how to make money, and they know how to make money using our money. So they also know how to do their homework. And they discovered that the average homeowner is either going to sell their home or they're going to refinance their home in the first 7 to 10 years of owning their home. And because of that, every amortization schedule is what we call front-end loaded with interest, meaning the majority of the bank's profit is paid in the first 7 to 10 years of that loan. Well, what does that mean? I have people say to me, well, Melinda, I don't plan on being in this house for 30 years. You know, I'm not gonna be in this house. Okay. Well, so let's say you sell the house. What are you going to do? Are you gonna go buy another house probably? And you're gonna get into another 30-year mortgage probably? And guess what? You're gonna pay all that front-end loaded interest all over again for the next 7 to 10 years, right? Well, what happens if you refinance? And this is what our mortgage lender friends don't want us to know. Because again, they want us to focus on rate and payment. The rates dropped. Let's refinance so we can maybe save a couple $100 on that mortgage payment. But what they don't tell you when you refinance, number one, it's expensive. It costs probably starting at $5,000 to refinance. Now, granted, it's tacked on the back of your mortgage so it doesn't come out of your pocket, so we don't feel it as much, but promise you we're paying for it. But more importantly, we're resetting that 30-year clock. And we're going back to the beginning of that amortization schedule, and we're paying all that front-end loaded interest all over again. So the banks stay in profit mode, and we don't. We're building little to no equity in our home. So let's take a look at this. Do we understand the true cost of our mortgage? This is actually, so back in 2015, the banks did not even have to disclose the actual amount of interest that we pay over the life of the loan. But as of 2015, they have to. So for those of you that refinanced recently, or if you can go home and find your docs, if you've purchased a house since 2015, this will be in your loan documents. It's in your truth in lending statement. And this basically shows, if you can see at the top, the total of payments, total you will have paid after you make all payments of principal, interest, mortgage, insurance, and loan cost is scheduled, $585,018.50. And then below that is the finance charge, of $179,415.80. And then the amount that's being financed, $396,670.60. Below that is the APR, or your percentage, your interest rate, 2.659. And then notice what it says below that, the total interest percentage. And isn't it ironic that it's called a tip? Because this is what we tip the bank. This is the amount of interest that we actually pay the bank over the life of the loan. 42.24% in this case. So let me ask you a question, ladies. How does a 2.659 interest rate equal 42.24% interest volume? It doesn't, because they have nothing to do with one another. But again, that's what the banks do not want us to know. Let's take a look at this graph from bankrate.com. These are three different mortgages: a $250,000 mortgage, a $350,000 mortgage, and a $450,000 mortgage. One at 3.5%, 4.5%, 5.5%. We're going to look at the $350,000 mortgage at 5.5%, little lower than where our rates are right now. 5.5%. At the end of that loan, we will have repaid the bank $715,414. That is 104% more than the principal balance. I don't know about you all, but that to me is like legalized theft. How they get away with that is beyond me. But they do, and they have, and they will continue to. But what I love about our system is that we've figured it out. We figured out how they're doing it. They use 8 banking principles that they've used to their advantage for all these years, and our system has turned the tables upside down, and we've reversed engineered what the banks have done to their advantage. We now can use to our advantage because we know how it works. We understand how it works. And so our system can make it work for us. So technology in our Money Max account exists to help us keep 60 to 75% of that scheduled interest. So if you knew you had to give the banks $365,414 in interest, but there was a way that you could keep $219,248 of that, how many of you would be all for that? Without changing your lifestyle or budget, I might add, and we'll talk more about that later. But that's what our technology does. So here's what we get paid to do, and we love it. $200,000 mortgage, conventional plan, the bank's plan on the left-hand side, utilizing our Money Max account on the right-hand side. Here's the balance after 7 months, just following the bank's traditional plan. Not much difference, right, after 7 months. I mean, it's a balance of $198,585. But utilizing the Money Max account, it's down to $183,796. Time to get to that same amount following the bank's plan would take you 5.7 years. 5.7 years. Why? Because remember what I said, you're paying all that front-end loaded interest for the first 7 to 10 years. You're building little to no equity. Our program taps into that principle right off the bat. You're building equity immediately. Time to pay off according to the bank, 30 years. Utilizing the Money Max account, 9.2. Total interest paid with the bank's plan, $231,000. Using the Money Max account, $67,852. So which one would you choose? Look at the savings there. That's $166,000 that they would have had to give the bank. Now they get to keep that in their pocket. That's pretty significant. and 20 years of their life that they don't have to make mortgage payments anymore. Let's up it a little bit, a $500,000 mortgage. After 7 months, $494,000 balance. Look at the difference after 7 months using the Money Max account. That's a $27,000 difference in equity position, guys. That's huge. Again, it would take the bank 3.5 years to get there, but only 7 months using the Money Max account. 30 years to pay off, or 9.2. And the savings, pretty significant, $259,667 in 20 years of your life. So it's about financial literacy. Let me ask you a question. Would you ever borrow $5,000 from a 14% credit card to pay toward your 4% mortgage? No. Everybody says no. On the surface, it just makes no sense, right? Who would do that? But let me show you something. When we do that, we are going to save $11,228 in interest, and we're going to cancel 11 full mortgage payments. 11. Remember when I said 360 pre-scheduled principal and interest payments? The principal and interest are tied together. Whatever we do to principal affects the interest. So when we make an extra principal payment, you would think, let's say for example, my mortgage is $1,000, we make an extra $1,000 payment to principal, you would think, okay, that's going to eliminate one extra payment, right? That in our minds, that's the way we would think, but that's not how it works. It actually cancels out more interest than that, and it shaves time off the back end of the loan. So when we cancel interest off to the front end of the loan, it shaves time off the back end of the loan. So the cost of borrowing that $5,000 on that 14% card was $387 for the first year. So I just traded $387 in interest on a credit card to cancel out $11,228 on a mortgage. That's a net interest savings of over $10,000. In any other transaction, would you ever invest $387 to get back $11,000? I would, all day long and twice on Sunday, right? But the question is, well, Melinda, though, that's $5,000. What if I don't get that paid off in a year? Okay, well, let's say it takes you 2 years. We double that interest. So now we're what, at $760 some interest? What if it takes us 3 years? We're at maybe $1,000 something in interest. We're still not even close to what we saved. When would it not make sense? When we get close to that $11,000, and that's not going to happen. I mean, that $5,000 is going to get paid off pretty quickly. That's just an advanced strategy that our system knows how to do. We don't have to understand it, but our system with its thousands of banking algorithms and lines of code knows how to do it. Our system is basically an equity accelerator. Google tells us an equity accelerator helps homeowners pay off their mortgage balances much earlier, resulting in significant interest savings over the life of the loan and reducing the payment duration by several years. Why would anybody want to use it? Well, because it's fast. And clients can now accrue almost 6 years of equity in as little as 7 months. Any of you had that nasty PMI on your mortgage, that private mortgage insurance? A lot of times it might take 5 years for that to drop off. You have to reach a certain equity position before that'll drop off. We can help homeowners eliminate that sometimes in as little as 18 months. I mean, that's significant because of the equity that you build in the home. Let me ask you a question. I know there's some young folks in here, but there's a few that are my age too. Who remembers using a road map or an atlas or even printing out, MapQuest? Remember when that came out? Okay, why don't we use those anymore? Or does anybody still use those? I maybe should ask. Maybe there's still people that use them. You still use it? Do you really? Okay. But most of us don't, right? Why don't we use it anymore? Because we have this wonderful technology called a GPS, right? A global positioning system. It's in our cars or it's on our phone. We are like a financial GPS. We are the only program in America that utilizes technology to mathematically guide you along the exact pathway to becoming 100% debt-free, using your monthly cash flow while not requiring any change to your lifestyle or your budget. So think about the GPS in your car, ladies. You have somewhere you want to go. This morning, I wasn't sure how to get here. I kind of knew I was going to have to come. I live in Brownsburg. I knew I was going to have to come 65, but I plugged this into my GPS, the address, and I hit go. It gave me my estimated time of arrival, and then it talked to me, and it navigated me the whole way here. And I use Waze, and so it's going to help me avoid construction, and it's going to help me avoid traffic and caution. You know, there's a vehicle on the side of the road up there. I mean, it helps us avoid all the pitfalls. And should I maybe have missed a turn or blown past an exit I was supposed to take, what does our GPS do? It reroutes us. That's right. Well, how is our GPS able to reroute us? Does anyone know? Exactly. It knows our location. So not only are we following the GPS, it's following us. It has to know where we are in order to be able to get us to where we need to go. That's exactly what our system does for our finances. It knows every aspect of your financial situation. When you own the program, mind you, it knows every aspect of your financial situation, so it can guide you month by month to get you to zero the fastest way possible, saving you the most amount of money. So our financial GPS, it evaluates every single aspect of your financial situation. Your income, are you hourly or salary? Or are you commissioned? Are you paid irregularly? Like, are you commission-based? What are the amounts and terms of each of your debt? Are your debts, are they fixed rates or variable rates? There's all different kinds of loan types. There's open-end loans, closed-end loans, unexpected expenses. This is kind of the interface of our Money Max account, what it looks like. We'll talk about what it is not. We're not a refinancing. We require no change to your standard of living. We're not a biweekly program. We're not a debt roll down program. We're not a reverse mortgage. We're not a concept or a theory. We're just math. There's absolutely nothing magical about our program. It is just math, and that's why we can offer a 100% money-back guarantee on our results. I'm going to say that again. We offer a 100% money-back guarantee on our results because it's just math. And I'm sure you've all heard the saying, people lie, numbers don't. There aren't many absolutes in this world, but math is still one of them. 1 + 1 is still 2. Our system is flawless because it's math. The only way you fail at the system is if you don't use it. And there's not much to using it. Once it's set up and your coach, it comes with lifetime coaching and support. Once you're set up and running, your only obligation to the program is to tell it what you made for the month and what you spent. And it does everything else for you. It's going to make your financial decisions. Now, we don't touch your money. We have nothing to do with your money, just like the GPS in your car doesn't drive your car for you, right? You're still in control. You can still choose to take the scenic route instead of listening to the GPS, or you think you might know a shortcut and you want to take that instead of listening to the GPS. You can do that. You're still in control, and you're still in control of your money. So we have nothing to do with your money. You still pay your bills as normal. Everything changes. If you're on auto pay, you don't have to change anything. Everything stays the same. It's just going to prompt you to make extra strategic debt reduction principal payments based upon your monthly cash flow, based upon your discretionary funds, based upon what do you have left over at the end of the month. And let's be honest, for some people, there's nothing left over. Some people are upside down. Some people, there's more going out than's coming in. But if you just have $1 in the positive. If you have $1 left over every month, you will be amazed at what our system can do. So invest $1 for a guaranteed return of $10. I would all day long. Keep tens of thousands, often hundreds of thousands of scheduled interest dollars in your pocket. You can eliminate 20 to 25 years of mortgage payments. Develop a robust retirement by making regular monthly payments on your debt. And it's literally for the cost of 1 to 3 mortgage payments. And I say that because everybody's mortgage payments are different, right? So it's based upon, but your specific cost of the program is literally computed at the time that you get your results. We offer a complimentary analysis for everyone where we plug in your numbers. We do an overview of your debt, your income, and your monthly expenses. We plug it into the system, and you are given your actual debt-free date and how much time and money the system will save you, and it also gives you your specific cost of the program. So then you can make an informed, educated decision if it makes sense for you to move forward or not. It's really that simple. So total debt eliminated. I don't know that I mentioned this, we have about over 80,000 clients in the US right now, and I'll have people say, really? You've got 80,000 clients? And then I'll have other people say, really? You only have 80,000 clients? Like, you've been around 18 years and you only have 80,000 clients? Yeah, we have over 80,000 clients, but we've helped those clients pay off $2.4 billion in principal debt. That's not even including the interest. And we currently have over $8 billion under debt management. So we've been around a long time, but guys, yeah, we have over 80,000 clients, but that just goes to show you the fields are ripe for harvest. People need to know who we are and what we do. And that's why there's a really good, opportunity in sharing this program with other people too, which I'm not gonna go into that, but if anyone's interested in making any extra money, this is a really good opportunity as well. And I know what you're thinking, because everybody thinks this when they first hear it. I thought this when I first heard about it. This sounds too good to be true. Well, I'm going to tell you this. It is good, and it's true. And I encourage everyone, do your due diligence and check us out. Google us, whatever you have to do, look us up, United Financial Freedom. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We actually have a 4.6 star rating with Trustpilot now. This slide is kind of old. But look us up, check us out, do your due diligence. What have you got to lose? Our system comes with lifetime coaching and support. Once you purchase the program, you're immediately scheduled with the coach. They help you set up the system. They show you all the ins and outs, the functions and features. If you can do online banking, you can do this. If I can do it, you see how non-tech savvy I am. I can't even work this silly mouse and get this PowerPoint to go. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Again, we do offer a complimentary analysis for everyone, so you can discover your personal debt-free date, find out how much interest that you can save, and learn how you can eliminate all of your loan obligations in as little as 1/3 to 1/2 the normal time. So we want to offer that to anyone who is interested, or offer to just even find out more information. We can do a live demonstration of our Money Max account, so you can actually see the power behind the tool that we have. I don't have the time to do that today, or I would, but we do most of our appointments via Zoom. So we'll just meet, on a Zoom call or something, and that's how we do the majority of our appointments. So if anyone is interested in learning more, or in having, your numbers run to find out what the system can do for you, Marilyn and Susan will be happy to, come around. I've got a QR code you can scan that'll take you to my calendar, and you can just schedule an appointment. We can talk, I can give you more information, or we can go ahead and, run your numbers wherever you want to be, at whatever point you want to be at, is what we can do. But I really, really encourage you to check this out. Don't dismiss it. Don't just think, oh, this is another one of those things, because it's not. It's truly life-changing. And I thank you. Well, thank you, ladies. I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much.